Oh, hello, everybody. My name's Dylan Gott.
And I'm a proud boy.
That is John Hastings. John Hastings, he's a road dog. Look at him. Is that a bed and breakfast you're in?
Certainly not. I was about to say, oh, I can say the name of the hotel. This will be released after I'm here. I am at I'm not going to say the name, but I'm very close to the hotel I should have stayed at, the Hotel Zeppelin. It's a Led Zeppelin themed hotel in San Francisco,
Whoa.
but I did not stay there because in the Google Maps photo, there were three guys just passed out in front of it. And then I looked, one of those guys, still the same guy from the Google Maps photo, which I was like, yeah, I like that guy.
That's nuts so is it like just a big castle and one person can stay in it at a time and they have to do heroin? Is that the hotel?
No, no, the street out front, you have to do heroin and you just have to hang out
Oh,
with that guy.
good.
Yeah. Here's the thing with San Francisco. With San Francisco, you wouldn't know this talking to the wokerati media, but
That's funny.
it's bouncing back in the very funny way where there is still a huge amount of junkies on the street. It's just that people have moved back into the neighborhoods and they're like, that's what's here now. And again, I was just like, yeah, that's what it
They're
is.
like, this is the local culture now.
This is what, see, this brings us to our subject for today. I lived in Montreal in the 2000s when Montreal was a hugely economically depressed city because of separation votes and a bunch of stuff like that. But it was also the most fun. Like there was a shooting on my street. Our rent was also $175 a
Yeah,
month.
man. That was the whole thing about Montreal where like it was like I do not know French. There seems to be nothing to do there but party, but rent is just a poem you write, the landlord, and they're like, I didn't like the poem, which means that I have to learn how to like it. Good rent.
Yeah. Oh, sir, you don't even know. Like I partied so hard. I worked at a coffee shop sometimes, and I did stand-up comedy in Canada on the road, and I was financially fine. It was the best.
um Vice Media, which now is like fired a bunch of people like every journalistic enterprise has. But really, I want this episode to be less about like understanding journalism and all that shit.
Vice magazine started in 1994. It was launched by Sarouche Alvey. Sarouche Alvey was basically looking for a way to commit a very Montreal of crimes, which is soft welfare fraud mixed in with some lovely benefits fraud. Now, it was not technically any of those things. What it basically was to encourage the economy in Montreal at that time because they were literally 2 to 3 years after the entire province nearly voted to separate from Canada. So there were huge structural and infrastructure problems within the province. So they threw in a bunch of programs to try and encourage people to move there, encourage young people to stay there, all that sort of stuff. One of those things where is like, if you make a arts magazine, we'll pay you through the welfare system. Sarouche Alvey, being a man on heroin, according to internet trolls only, commissioned his buddy and cartoonist Gavin to come aboard, and they got on welfare and basically soft launched this magazine. Gavin brought in Shane Smith. Shane Smith he knew from the Ottawa punk scene, a scene I was also a part of. And they formed that. Now, Shane Smith is your classic of all Canadian men, which is huckster shitty businessman, just sort of goes along until he really fucks it up. And that's exactly what Shane Smith does. This is not the story of Gavin McInnes fucking up. Gavin McInnes, and this is tough, isn't the good guy, but he's not the bad guy. Do you know how difficult it is for the guy that was like, I'm just listening to this Aladdin musical. I'm going to start a street fighting gang that drinks a lot and wears polo shirts. And somehow the polo shirts are the most embarrassing thing. Oh, also no masturbating, but you have to get tattoos because that's what I like.
Well, Gavin McInnes is interesting because it's like
Because you
he's
love him, because you
clearly
support
dog
everything he says.
whistling that he's a Nazi before this, but like, and this is something that I wanted to touch on and what I kind of wanted the episode to be about, John.
Oh, Dylan.
Remember when it was like there were certain white guys would say the N word and it was fine because they were cool? They're like, no, man, this hat's from West 49. I can say the N word.
Oh, I have
I'm just
a
cool and not racist. No,
guy
I don't
named
hang out with any black people.
guy named Dan stood next to a black guy who both wanted to beat me up in the hallway outside of Mr. Findlater's class when we were 14. And he said, you know what, John, you're a real. And then he dropped that word. And the black guy said next to him, went, what, man? And then they almost got into a fight. And we were all sent to the principal's office. And it was pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, but that was back like the interview. If you read the complete interview that everyone points to, where Gavin McInnes
Well,
first
which
says
one? There's a few.
basically,
So, because what's interesting is there's a few different, depending on who's launching a war against Gavin's past, there's a few different moments where he was like, where you're like, what in the name of loving God are you fucking thinking, you Canadian? Go ahead.
this
What's
is
the
the New
one you're
York
thinking of?
Press interview. So Vice starts in like the mid '90s.
It starts in 1994 in Montreal as Voice of Montreal. By 1996, it's Vice magazine.
Mhm.
They start lying about various perspectives and millionaires and billionaires in Montreal giving them investment and money. One of those billionaires is like, "Yeah, I'll do that." Moves them to New York. When they get to New York, they're like, "This doesn't seem right." And he's like, "Oh, you know how you guys are scammers? I'm a much bigger scammer." And they're like, "Wait, what?" And he's
I'm
like,
much better
"Dot
at
com
this.
crash." And they end up working in the back warehouse of their only sponsor, which is a jean company where they end up in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and they start the Brooklyn is cool movement.
Well, this is so. Here's this. This is was it New York Press interview? Yeah, it is the New York Press interview. Anyway, there's a New York Press interview from 2002, basically about like Gavin McInnes does come up with a lot of like the aesthetics that hipsters would go
No,
on to
no.
have.
Everything. I would walk into this is
And
such
I'm
a
just doing a
2000 sense.
control find on NIG in this article, and he says it one, two, three,
Whoa.
four.
I don't whoa. What is this, a rap song? Is he just reading
Says
the
it
lyrics to
four.
that
Yeah, he
DMX
says it
song?
four times. So it's like not only time that he says it, but like here's one of the answers. Vice's approach to homosexuality and
Oh
race
no.
isn't
Oh
traditionally
no.
punk rock. The
Oh
punk
no.
rockness of that is just plain honesty. We seem to be really racist and homophobic because we hang around with and N words so much. It
I'm
becomes
gonna
part of our vernacular.
I'm gonna say this. I fucking hate when punk rock is used by people like that.
I
We're
hate
not
punk. I hate just
huge
saying
pieces.
something is punk rock. If you think
I
about it, Elon Musk is kind of punk.
I nearly asked a very good friend of yours and mine when we were very drunk to leave my house because he kept calling things punk rock. He said that, oh my God, he said it once about a sandwich, and I said that you are I literally I said, "What's next?
You know how
World
there's
War II,
sand in that?
Papa?"
That's real sand in that sandwich. That's punk rock. Because you
Oh
expect it
my
to be
God.
something you can eat and digest, but it's
It's
just
also
sand.
what drives me crazy is I know real punk rock people. They would never say punk rock. They're just covered in tattoos. They've got a mohawk. They're 45. They have no job. They live by a river in London. You have no idea how they have any money. And like you're just like, what happened today? And then I found a skunk and then I fucked it. And you're like, that's fucking crazy, man. And crazy means punk rock, but you don't say punk rock. That's like saying it's fetch.
Well, it's just also like you've attached yourself to an aesthetic. Like that was the weird thing about hipsters was there was always like a self-loathing. Like anytime you would call someone a hipster, they'd get defensive.
That's what I never
Versus like you're a
understood.
punk, and then they're like, yeah, I like punk. I mean, I saw a picture of whatever Johnny Rotten, and then I just did that to my body. Versus someone who saw Gabby Mac and started dressing like Gabby Mac, and then you go, oh, you're a hipster, and they're like, I'm not actually a hipster, and you're like, okay, you have a tattoo of a zine on your neck, and
Oh
your
yeah.
under your fedora is another smaller like fedora.
Well, it
You
was
can think
also
of
very
another hat.
interesting. It was also, yeah, I know, but
Mm.
I want to speak about the fedora because the fedora was a very interesting hat because it came on the scene for our generation. Hated. Like there was no moment where it was like wearing a fedora is cool. It literally one guy put on a fedora and everyone was like, "Loser, fuck you, fuck
Humphrey
you."
Bogart died, and then everyone was like, let's retire this hat. Everyone agreed, but then a bunch of people who weren't alive for the agreement started wearing fedoras, and you're
Yeah, we
talking to one of
stopped.
them, baby.
Yeah, we stopped wearing hats because of JFK. Dylan got turned 20 and went, "I know how I can make these babes
Time
wet."
to ska up this outfit.
Yeah, time to fucking skank both
But it is because
definitions.
like you're let's just say a barber tells you you're balding when you're 18. You're like, I gotta start wearing hats, but I don't want to wear the same hats everyone else does, and that's why you wear plastic bags with duct tape.
That's true. You did, yeah, you did just tape bags to your head for a good portion of your 20s. And when people were like, "What's with your head, your bag?" You'd be like, "You mean my hat?"
Well, that's the interesting thing of like Vice is right into the thing where it's so everything gets called out for I'd say probably 5 to 10 years longer than it should be after it's relevant. Like 2002. is I guess the start of Vice's. I would say the start of Vice's prominence is like we're in high school to like our
Yeah, no,
early 20s,
I
and
put it
that is the
in.
start of like being a hipster. I would say the prime of being a hipster would be like 2002 to 2012. Now, during that time, everyone's just calling people stupid fucking emo kids. Remember that? Where it's like
Yeah,
people were like, I hate emo kids. And you're like, I haven't seen someone like who likes emo in a full
I'm.
decade, dude.
We need to
And then
stop,
now
and I'm going
that
to go
same
on a
thing is
rant.
happening to
I want.
hipsters.
Shut up!
And
Shut
now
up!
that's
Shut
going
up!
to
Shut up!
happen
Shut
to the
up!
word
Shut
woke.
up! Shut up!
Okay, very
There
good.
was no emo scene. No one listened to emo.
Yes,
What
they
happened?
did.
No, name one. Name one. I met no one who liked My Chemical Romance. It's a lie. It's a
I
game.
mean,
This
I knew people who liked emo in high school.
you no,
I
you didn't.
went to emo
No, you
concerts
didn't.
and
You're
was like,
lying. You know what's on fire? Both
wow.
Alexis and your trousers.
I mean, we know Steph Tolev, very funny comedian, loves Alexis on Fire.
Was afraid you weren't going to bring that up. I did remember that halfway through this. I did
I
remember. I was
mean,
like, wait a minute.
people liked emo. You were just in a
Also,
you're in a very weird thing where I don't know. I feel like you were in one of the original echo chambers, but before social media, because you're one of those people I could honestly draw up as someone going like, Prince, and you're like, you mean Andrew?
yeah,
Like
this is 100%
I
true.
met someone when I was 22 and it shook me to my core who did not know who Prince was. I was
I
like,
had to actively, you're 100% correct on Prince. Prince is one of those weird ones where certain enclaves of majority white people went, I don't fucking think so. And it goes Jimi Hendrix, no other black guitar player. There's no, like you go into the
well, Prince was also
library, the piece.
androgynous, so it was like people
Oh,
wouldn't claim him.
Newsflash, Westboro, Ottawa, Ontario, androgynous, that means one word, and it is yelled out of a car window towards just a man and a woman on a date, but they're holding hands, if you know what I'm
I have a
saying.
question for you. When was the
Go
last
ahead.
time you had a homophobic slur yelled at you? I already have my answer.
2023 summer. I couldn't remember if it was 2023
Really?
or
That
2022.
recently?
Yeah. I can explain why. I was
Oh, there
crying.
was a reason? You're like, there
There
was a
was.
reason? He
I
was
was
correct.
I was violently weeping on a train platform,
Oh,
and
that's good.
an English youth from the other side yelled, "You poof!" And then
Yeah.
his other friend went, Michael, what you doing? And then they ran away. And I don't know what had preceded that, but I have a feeling he had called a bunch of people that word that day and they had nearly been murdered. And he was like, not a fucking again, Mikey.
Well, you
Not
don't. You
again.
are much bigger than them.
And
So,
I
like,
also got news for you. The tears I was shedding, it wasn't a like, it was,
hard cry.
God.
That guy just killed his wife, and now he's
God.
trying to flee the country.
Yeah. I didn't know full adults did school shootings. Well, we better yell a homophobic slur at that man and get out of here.
Here's mine.
Oh, it happened a lot. A guy used to drive by the building
Sorry.
my theater school was in and yell it almost every day.
That's what I was saying. Like once I grew this is the interesting thing where like now I look like a bunch of right-wing memes because I have glasses and this beard.
It's so funny, yeah.
Yeah, like exactly like a bunch of right-wing memes. So if I have anything that gets any views, then fucking it'll start being boosted up by right-wing people in the comments, just being like, he's a fucking, and then they'll just say a meme that I don't know. Anyway, but not the reason but the part of the reason I grew this beard was because I was getting called every single day for like a year by someone on the street because I have a soft chin and glasses. So the last one was, which was pretty good. I'll say every day is a very big exaggeration, but I would say probably bi-monthly. So the last one
Are
was,
we living in Canada? Are we living in Canada for this?
Yes.
Yeah, that's 100%. I'm stamping this as a Canadian. That's a bi-monthly drop of that comment. That's if we did look at the census data, that's exactly correct for the amount of stepdads and dudes that smoked inside well into the 2010s that live in Dylan's orbit. We are in Truth Town.
This is only people my age.
Of course. Of course.
Like early 20s people who I would hope like whatever political opinions now would probably be buoyed by the fact like, didn't you miss time calling me gay out of a car window?
For those of you at home, Dylan and I had to take a little break because Dylan is creating his second child. Because as we all know, he's planning on replacing me on this podcast with his own progeny.
Oh, buddy, the fucking My
The
kid's been
Godcast?
playing. He's been playing like he's a cop.
You've been talking about this a lot, and I think that he
Oh, I
is
haven't
getting.
told you the next evolution about it. It was that he started
Oh.
calling me boy one day. He's like, "Get in there, boy." And then I was like, "You can't say that ever again." And that was like, he was like, "Okay." I was like, "Just say man." He's like,
Yeah,
"Okay, get over there, man." I was like, "Perfect. Don't walk around calling people boy. For the love of
never.
goddamn
It'll-
Christ."
Yeah, especially in your neighborhood with your nice face, you're gonna get a fucking brick in there.
Oh yeah, but then also I did teach him because we were playing like he was the thief and then I was the cop, and then anyway, I couldn't resist. I put his hands behind his back really rough, and I was like, facing the goddamn ground, facing the
Yeah,
ground. And then he started doing that to me, which I'm like, of course, but also, I gotta
good.
resist every goddamn joke.
Yeah, I know. Dylan, as a man and a comedian and a Christian, the
Oh yeah.
kind of Christian that does not really
All
believe
right,
in
let's
God.
say this. Let's say this as a white Christian. Continue, John.
Yeah,
Oh, John drew the blinds there when he said it.
as a white Christian,
There you go. I hope someone
I
fast forward to the episode and just heard that as the first thing. Continue.
I just no sentence can be good. Being as a white Christian, you know what I
As a
really
white
like?
Christian.
Humming.
It's always so, but it is interesting that like Gavin McInnes did a lot for Nazis because you used to just think Nazis were in shape people who like are militarized, but
So
sometimes it can
true.
be a guy who has just read so much his brain turned in on itself. But people used to say like Gavin
I have a
McInnes was like the funniest guy they'd ever met, but all of the shit he did was shithead 90s guy. Like he would put a shirt over his head and just sprint into the middle of the road and cars would stop. And let's just count ourselves angry that those cars stopped.
Yeah. Also, fucking as usual, Montreal lets the side down. You can hit a bunch of fucking single moms with your fucking cars. Have fucking where's Rene Levesque to hit a guy with his car coming back drunk from his mistress, and his excuse was he was in the road. And it was like, well, you were driving on the sidewalk. You just thought that was the road, you drunken fuck. But your point is exactly correct. This is a city that could have really taken down some people vehicular manslaughter wise. Here's the other thing you're not taking into account. What's the other thing Gavin McInnes was building up to do when things were getting rough and vice between the two in the sort of about so he sort of pegs it like from about 2003 forward, he's being pushed out by Shane and Sarouche for exactly what you're talking about, where they're like, hey, we want to get Nintendo to sponsor our magazine because we are fucking a youth magazine and Nintendo is going down in terms of market share. They'll give us a bunch of money. And Gavin is like, what if I take my dick out and put on a Godzilla mask when the executives come in the office because that's fun? And they're like, please, for the love of God, do not do that. And he's like, it's time for chaos. Gavin time. So Gavin, as a backup plan, because exactly correct, everyone is like, Gavin, you're the funniest man in the world. What's the thing he goes into next? Which
Stand-up
is
comedy.
correct. He goes into stand-up comedy, which is exactly where our story turns bad. Because let me tell you this about stand-up comedy. What I've learned in the last 5 years, if someone fails at stand-up comedy, either kill them or make sure they get a girlfriend and go into a very solid job, or that person is going hard right wing. He's
That
going
is
hard
true.
right wing. He's going
If
hard
someone
right
stops
wing.
doing stand-up comedy, but like they either have a family now or bad.
Yeah, they either have a family or they've made a new family and their mom and dad is Hitler.
Yeah, they have a new family. It's in the middle of the woods, and if they drink this thing, they become God.
Yeah, and by the way, the examples that this are true that I saw all of these firsthand. I can find the person that was like, I was there, I saw it. Milo Yiannopoulos, Steven Crowder, Gavin fucking McInnes. I'll throw fucking Alex Jones in there too. I guarantee Alex Jones wanted to be part of the Texas Comedy Outlaws. Hey, can I be part of this? And they were like, well, you are because you are Bill Hicks.
You know who else tried stand up?
Good.
AOC. That's not true. What a left wing, what a far left wing people try that doesn't work.
I can tell you,
Mescaline?
No, it's worse.
Dancing?
Writer.
Ooh.
It's writer.
That's such a very like good archetype of like of what those takes those people there, because it's like far right people, they want to be like this, they all want to be Bill Burr, but they're not. And then yeah, far left people all want to be fucking whoever a
Tom
writer
Wolfe was
is.
right wing. Yeah, allow me
Yeah,
to handle that
whoever a
reference.
fucking nerd ass writer
They
is.
all want to be Dean Koontz.
Yeah, they all want to be the K-man.
Yeah, you can't compete with the K man. AAOC, you got
I love
nothing on
DK.
the
Oh, you
Dean.
must mean Dean Koontz. They have a Dean Koontz video game now? Donkey Kong. Oh, okay.
Oh, well, yeah. Will that have lingering senses of terror? Well, yeah. There's an old monkey, and as you know, any old monkey will rip your dick off. I'm terrified.
So this is the thing because I want to say like, so we like wrestling, and wrestling you have the NWO, right? You have Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan. Now I guess the Hulk Hogan of creeps would be Shane Smith. Now I didn't
Oh, you
do
saying who's
extensive
the?
reading on
I
the
can
Hulk
I can do it. This is the
on.
best. This is the best. I can do it. I can do
No,
it
I
right
want to
now.
stop with Shane Smith. No, I want to stop with Shane Smith
Okay, okay, go.
because I'd say the Scott Hall, the guy who pops in and out, the person who I would say exemplifies Vice as like uh a style would be Mr. TR, Terry Richardson, who they used all the time.
So I hear your point about creepy old Terry Richardson. By the way, if you don't know what Terry Richardson photography is, American Apparel ads, every Vice magazine cover until they started going hard into geopolitics. That's Terry Richards. By the way, look him
Terry
up. And
Richardson, yeah, American Apparel ad. Vice for me is whatever fucking like Vice, the Vices that I thought was like Gavin McInnes just saying weird shit on the inside, nonsensical shit, big picture of like, you know, whatever, a hot girl, but she's in Chuck Taylor's, so it's fucking,
yeah, she's
whatever. And then
literally the only
and then
thing
on the
stopping it
back
from
is a
being
Terry
porn.
Richardson American
Yeah.
Apparel ad, which if you haven't seen American Apparel ads, basically imagine Terry Richardson saw someone take a picture of their kid in the tub and he was like, I want to do that.
Yeah, that's
That's
exactly
what
right.
I
He's
want
like,
my life to be.
hey, you know the wholesomeness of a photo of a baby in a tub? Yeah, but that with a slut. Hey,
Yeah,
Terry, I'm
yeah.
just gonna let you know.
What if
You're
someone was
creeping.
scared?
Yeah. Is there any way that this woman could be hot and also my property?
How about this? We get her in the room. She knows it's a photo shoot. I spring on her all the stuff I want her to do. While she's scrambling, I do it to her. She never says yes. That's my
Hi.
idea.
Hello, Jimmy Savile. Hi, this is Terry Richardson. I just want to let you know I'm doing what you do over here. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Terry Richardson. One of the things is like he's like, all right, that was a nice shoot. Now take your tits out. I'm gonna put my dick in your mouth, and that happened all the time. That was like
Correct.
that was his number one. That was
This
his
is
fucking.
this is how you
Uh,
know he's a bad guy. Gavin McInnes eventually cut ties. Like
that's
Gavin McInnes, like Gavin McInnes did a show hosted on Anthony Cumia from Opie and Anthony's podcast network, Compound Media. This is how fucking bad that was. It was behind a paywall in 2015. If your podcast is behind a paywall in 2015, I'm just assuming you're just showing, hey, are you 8? Here's how you build a gun. Anyway, so on that podcast, Gavin McInnes would go fucking butt fuck nuts and have insane people on it and was literally like, Proud Boys, here's what you do. Go to an event, kill a left-wing protester, find the cops, tell them you did that. It's totally legal because we are Republicans now. Also, I got to tell you, Terry Richardson kind of makes me uncomfortable. He once looked at me and went, smell this. It was Velcro. And he went, I'd put that in a woman's pussy. And then he fully disappeared. Like, it's like that show was fucking nuts, which I would occasionally listen to ripped versions of because at the time I missed Opie and Anthony so much. And I just figured, oh, well, Anthony's probably started a new radio network. It'll be the same. It was not the same. It was not the same, Dylan. It
yeah,
was
this
not.
is
It was not
this is the
Patrice O'Neill
compound
being
media
funny.
of the wrestler review. Yeah.
Yes, exactly correct. I would say this is more the Opie radio of the wrestler review, which is it's unlistenable, but at the very least, it's not actively contributing to the takeover of a government.
Well,
Not actively.
yeah,
It
Gavin
is
McInnes,
passively
obviously,
participating in that.
for those of you who don't know, the Proud Boys classified as a terrorist organization, and I think he said his basically his thesis or his fucking called arms was we want to return to Western chauvinism, but he's like
Yes.
says this well, which is so funny because I always think like right wing people, they should be like, if you're going to attach yourself, like only have people who look like that Jocko guy where it's like shaved head
Yes.
on steroids. You can't also accept guys who like look like me, but somehow just if I just lost weight, Full stop. I don't know.
But I
Lofty got
don't.
some plugs.
What I and I shouldn't be saying this, but what I never understand is why they in America they always are like we're a drinking club, which is how they're like we're drinking, we're getting crazy, which is like make it sound more boring. A journalist will be like I like drinking, I'll hang out with a drinking club. Be like we won marathons while painting walls beige, and then be like snore. That's never getting in the Washington Post. See you
We're
later.
birders.
Exactly. We're painters. We painted beigers. Like that. Do I have to fucking fix everything? You know what I mean? The timeline basically is this. Gavin McInnes gets pushed up by Shane Smith because Shane Smith is basically operating a giant fucking inflationary con. So Shane Smith is a very smart businessman and recognizes that Vice is a brand and it is a media brand in a time where all traditional media brands are losing power. So the reason why they've switched from like mainstream media into legacy media is all of those independent online companies that are now where most people are getting their news are following the same model that Vice did, which was Vice just went, hey, we're news, but better. We're not failing because really we're a fashion magazine and that wasn't failing yet. And people are like, oh, cool. He gets all this investor money. Gavin gets fucked off. They pay Gavin off. They make themselves the founder of just Sarouche and Shane. Gavin feels like a real piece of shit. That pays off. By the way, this right here, that moment right there, Gavin McInnes is the smartest man of the three of them because Gavin McInnes, more than likely, he's never been said, hundreds of millions of dollars. Never forget that. Gavin McInnes, hundreds of millions of dollars that we know we've invested in Manhattan property. That's what he did with his money. He has all of his money and he's now just he's just shitty Himmler. Shane and Sarouche launch everything based off of the back of Vice's Guide to Travels, where they go to Liberia. Vice is the reason why we have this nouveau fascination with North Korea and the Hermit Kingdom. He went to North Korea more than once, did some actually really good journalism about the American border, and also found John McAfee. All of their journalism was very specific in terms of they created clickbait journalism. They created this whole segment of news where you go after interesting people and you talk about we're not going to talk about the problems between Pakistan and their neighbors through the tribal areas, but we're going to go to the tribal areas and show you all these guys that make guns, but never explain the geopolitical situation that's leading to
Yeah, it was
all
more
these
like
tribal.
it was like voyeurism.
Exactly.
Yo, isn't this fucked?
Yeah,
No, but there's no we should change this. He's like, yo, that's fucked. Like the the Vice Guide to, I mean the Vice Guide to Travel, which is like such a first off is such a great title where it's like, but those first ones where they go to North Korea and to show
Liberia.
The one to show they have wealth, North Korea just puts out a bunch of dinners that no one's gonna have, and then they eat dinner. It's like, see, look at all this fucking shit we have. Going to Liberia, going to, I think they go to fucking was it ISIS or Al Qaeda?
They go to the tribal areas in Pakistan and meet gun sellers. I don't think they meet anyone from the Taliban or ISIS. They later do. They later go to Libya during the civil war. They meet with various ISIS fighters and stuff like that, or people fighting ISIS actually. Because what am I talking about? ISIS would kill the Vice reporters. It's the people fighting ISIS they would go and meet with. What am I talking about? Yeah.
No, because at one point I remember during it, they're like, if they find out you're American, you're going to die.
Yeah, that would be true of the people fighting ISIS as well. Let's be clear. Just because they're fighting ISIS doesn't mean they're like, let me tell you who I like America. No, they're like, get this fucking guy dressed in black off my fucking hey, that's my fucking house, motherfucker. Shoot him. You know what I mean? Like the whole ISIS conflict versus America was so fascinating because it was like giant crazy enemy. And then a bunch of fucking dudes who lived where ISIS were occupying were like, are you not sending drones? All right, we'll go shoot these fucks.
Well, so just to say that, but there's a time when they pivot out of print media that's going really well.
They do pivot out of print media and are a giant online provider of content. They launched their own TV channel. I worked for that TV channel. You're looking at the warm-up man for Jamali Maddox's TV show, Dylan. And I have collected many a paycheck from Vice Media. And let me tell you what the saddest room I've ever been in show business was. Would you like to know when it was?
Yes.
The filming of Jamali Maddox's TV show, because those producers were such pieces of garbage to Jamali and to Paul Byrne, who was writing that show, that before they were taping, they were a level of sad because these guys were not letting them just make a show that was a hit, and were literally like, is there a way that this could be about blah, blah, blah? I was literally sent in by Jamali's fucking agent, like, can you cheer these guys up? before the show. And then they just sent the producer to me, the warm up guy, and he'd be like, "Can you get him to talk about Trump?" And I just kept being like, "Yeah, I can." And then I'd walk over to Paul Byrne and be like, "Hey, man, um, do you think that Wesley was actually shit on Star Trek: The Next Generation?" And he'd be like, "No, man, he was cool." And I'd be like, "That's what I thought." And then I'd walk back and be like, I can't crack this Irish guy. Can't do it. He's a rock. He's a fucking rock, man. Oh, that guy was I could see his face right now. He was such a fucking idiot. I had a broken elbow at the time. That's the other thing. I had a broken elbow and I was coming off of opioids and I was the happiest man involved in the creative aspect of that shoot by a country mod. Do you know how sad you have to be that the guy coming off of opioids is like, and you're like, it was nuts. Fuck Vice. Fuck them. Don't make my friends sad.
Yeah, Viceland UK and Viceland in Canada too, which I understood. Yeah, because they're that Bobby and Harriet show.
Wait a minute, Dylan. We are both stars of Viceland. I forgot about Bobby and Harriet get married. Bobby Mayer, our friend, literally just went, "Getting married? I know how to get this paid for. We're making a reality show."
Yeah. Well, they made like a scripted reality show. They paid us by scene, like we were in porns. It was good.
Oh, so nuts! I couldn't believe
they offered my wife a part in the show. I forgot about this. This is hilarious. They offered my wife a part in the show. She said no, and then I was like, and then just later on, I said, "Yeah, I mean, it would have been all right. We need the money, but like, you if you're not comfortable with something." And she's like, "Money?" I said, "Yeah, I'd pay money." And she said, "What? I didn't know that."
Oh my God.
Like, that's how little money there is in Canadian entertainment, is that it was for a network. And she just assumed they wouldn't pay us.
I mean,
that's still to my time. I was like, I can't imagine, like, obviously it's a bit silly on her part, but it's just more about because she was like, "You've done things that," because there would be like television shows from MTV in Canada. People would do entire shows for free.
Yeah.
That was, and that wasn't just one time. That was like all the time. Dylan, on TV, you'd use the credit.
I recently, speaking to a Canadian person, said about a job, I said, "Well, you're going to have to pay my flight." And they went, "Well, why? That's not how that works." And I was like, "Yeah, it is. You're employing me. So you have to fly me from where I am to where you are." And they literally
not incurring the travel cost.
Yeah. And they were like, they literally said, "We've never heard of this before." And I went, "Okay." And I was just like, in particular in Canada, it is the most frustrating thing because they're like, "I've been in show business for a long time." And I was like, first of all, no, you haven't. You've been in Canadian show business, which is very specific. And also, you haven't been in that. You literally just started running. You're a person who's in charge of booking a corporate entertainer for your event. Stop. Canadian passive aggressiveness is a nightmare, which is why, by the way, I guarantee Shane Smith did what he did, which was he in his head, he's like, "I'm smart. I went to North Korea and they gave me all that food. Our valuation is definitely $1 billion. We are definitely going to allow all these corporate people in because they're going to look at that and they're going to totally be like, this guy's so smart." And he does. And they come in and they're like, "Jesus fucking Christ, this is all a waste of money. Let's fucking cancel all these programs," not realizing, oh, that's the things that made content because it was a badly run business. See in hell, Vice. Classic story. All the employees got super fucked over. Shane Smith's got millions and billions of dollars. Shane Smith's the reason the Russell Brand story was delayed. Allegedly. Shane Smith got Me Too'd in 2017. Vice had the story about Russell Brand. They had to bury it because Shane Smith is a dirty toucher. Dirty toucher.
So ask this question. What did he get Me Too'd for then?
Got Me Too'd for a huge amount of inappropriate behavior with employees and otherwise. And I believe there was also some story of like a wild staff party in Vegas where he behaved very inappropriately. Also, if you're going to Vegas for a staff party, quit that company right there. It's some sort of scam.
The expectation is you fucking...
We're taking the entire staff for Vegas for the week. Okay, well, I'm putting it in my 2 weeks and I'm getting my fucking retirement program out of your hands because there's no way that this is in. Fraudulent as fuck.
Well, yes. I mean, Shane there was also allegations that he like made people smuggle drugs.
Oh, yeah. This is the thing
Yeah.
also is
It
that
was
no
like,
one
put
talks
these
about the
drugs
two,
in your asshole. I want to do blow in Vegas or whatever.
which is, by the way, if you're smuggling blow to Vegas, you're a loser. You're a
That's
fucking loser.
unsubstantiated. I just said that.
I'm aware, but I'm just making the point. If you're going to Vegas and any drug, you're like, oh, we better smuggle these drugs to Vegas. You're a fucking virgin. I got news for. I was crying on an escalator in Vegas because I flew directly from my best friend's funeral to Vegas, and a guy walked up and went, M, Coke, Coke, M. And I was like, this guy, A, this is a good salesman. He looked at me and just went, let's not fuck around. This guy probably wants some drugs. B,
This guy wants to feel what he's not feel what he's feeling. Yeah.
I did ask him where there was a dispensary for weed, and he went, great question, and then didn't answer it and walked away. And I have always respected that drug dealer. I've always been like, yeah, I asked where the competition was, and you wanted to make sure that your customer service rating remained high because I assume you're Yelped, but you didn't want to help me. I appreciate it.
So yes, basically it's the point of like Sarouche kind of just had no like
Suresh
real.
Alvi is the best. He does not like the rumor is he was a giant junkie the whole time. I don't know. That is not substantiated at all, but it comes from like he just was never around. He's in two Vice pieces, and then he's like, all right, I'm pretty tired. I'm gonna go. I got like $80 million or something.
Well, this is the interesting thing where it's like Vice was they really successful as a product that could then be cool on networks to make those networks cool, but then once they started their own network, it didn't really
So my
work
mom is
out.
a business professor. I can explain this, which is they are a very specific, a lifestyle indicating brand. So it's a
Ooh.
very, very popular for a very brief time because it's pointing, it's exactly it. It's indicating to the rest of the world the person that's involved, and that is like, I'm a certain type of person, I'm a certain demographic. So anyone that's
Hipster.
involved in advertising is going to love that because it's a very specific data point you can target ads at. So they're going to be an incredibly popular thing that people are going to want to incorporate and use. But when you become the brand, you need something within that to make you cool, which you could see them doing, which is once they launch their own network, they're going after people like our friend Jamali, who is going to have a very specific type of audience. He was like a young, incredibly like hot, cool comedian. You know what I'm saying? They bring in Action Bronson. They're trying to replicate the thing that made them successful for themselves, but they're unable to do it because they're not actually production people or media people. They don't know how to build the bedrock of you now actually have to break stories. You can't just be in a jungle with John McAfee and be the reason he gets caught, by the way. Like the other thing is Vice are very at being journalists because they're not real journalists. This is again the problem with what our generation did to so many industries is we were like, this is shit. No one, you don't need to be trained to be a fucking blacksmith. I'll just kill some horses. Like that's what our entire generation did, and Vice is that example of it within media, which is like we're better than the real media. We don't cover anything local that affects people, but I can tell you exactly what type of heroin's being done by a South African gang that lives on an island near Brazil.
Yeah, it's just kind of that one specific thing. They're the guy who's been to Vietnam and talks about it all the
Yeah,
time.
they're a real specific. This is a real specific London reference, but they're a kind of guy that does a lot of open mic comedy in a suit. Dylan, kind of guy that you see a lot at the Groucho. That's like, I'm in television actually, but you're like, well, no, you're not because I've been here at 9 a.m. and I've been here at 4 a.m. and you're always here at those times. I think you're into alcohol.
Yeah, just so many. It just reminds me of so many. Seeing so many people at parties. It's like if you had a Vice magazine at a party in 2009, I knew two things about you. A, you want people to think you're cool. B, you've never read that magazine because
Never
there
read
was
that
nothing
magazine.
in the magazine. I remember it was like a
No, the
big
do's
picture.
do's and don'ts. There would from 2000 and sort of eight onwards, there would be one hard hitting news thing, but it would be written really weird. And then there was a bunch of, by the way, the other thing that Vice was really good at,
Yeah,
there
you
were
had
a
to
bunch
swear
of,
a lot. Like,
oh yeah, you got to swear a fucking lot in those articles. These fucking airplanes. And then the last thing was a bunch of articles that were really just ads for fashion. Like that's the other thing is
yeah,
Vice made a huge amount of money by being one of the pioneers of that fucking like, oh, what's it called? Ads that are dressed up like articles. I can't remember what it's called.
yeah,
It's
it's like
called.
implanted stuff. It's like kind of like
Yeah,
Seinfeld, how they in the thing in Seinfeld where they use
the
CGI and
pretzels.
shit to like change shit in the background. So they basically are like, if you want to be like a book on Jerry's shelf, it's this much money, like that type of thing.
I hate reality.
Or
I
like
hate that
Iron
we're
Man
doing that.
drinking a Dr. Pepper type thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's that. And it totally worked. I just remember one article about like, yeah, it was just this whole spread about like it's always the girls you never expect that are the ones you fall in love with. And then I remember being looking at the article and at the time thinking, yeah, and then kind of reading it again and being like, this is just a model in ripped jeans. There's no
Yeah.
like you'd never expect the 6 foot 130-pound woman smoking a long cigarette to be. Yes, you would.
Yeah,
That's
that's exactly
everything.
what I expect. Here's why Vice magazine was successful. The largest amount of adolescence that the earth has ever seen. Baby boomers suck my dick. Millennials as adolescents, we are a bigger generation, especially in America. Eat my asshole.
Ooh.
We became 20. That's why Vice was successful. And do you want to know why Vice is no longer successful? We're becoming 40. That's what welcome.
Well, you're
Yeah,
right. It's
that's
exactly the same
exactly
thing.
like, no, I don't want to know a woman smoking a long cigarette. Excuse me, is there a magazine here that explained to me why the fuck I'm just getting up at 5:30 in the morning? That's what I would
That's
like to.
really funny. The Vice guide to peeing in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Vice guide to figuring out what your spouse means when she says your communication is unclear.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We have this crazy new article in Vice on how to save 5% of your yearly salary.
Yeah, we got this
And
crazy
then you want to fucking start a GIC,
yeah,
fuckhead.
Vice guide to driving a Jetta.
How to kickflip while your back hurts, Vice.
Dylan, I have to go.
I have to stay. Next week, we're going to talk about Kathy Griffin. Can you believe it? I
Yeah,
can't. Good night,
I can.
everybody.
She held up a fucking Trump max covered in ketchup, and she's
Yeah,
a
I
loser.
didn't think about it until we researched her, where it's like, fucking Christ.
Why does
She got left wing canceled, which I didn't think. She's like, no one would talk to me. It was crazy. Anyway, goodbye.